Brian Hadad joins us from Sports Talk in Mississippi, and it's been a horrible 24 hours with the news about Mike Leach and the unknown, and yet everyone asking for prayers. Brian, I know it's an incredibly private matter, but what can you tell us at this particular time?
Well, the news obviously is not very good. Coach Leach was airlifted from Starkville to Jackson, Mississippi, to the University Medical Center down there, and has been in their care ever since. He's in critical condition in the ICU. I don't believe at this time he is conscious, or nor has he been since the incident occurred early Sunday morning. All indications are that his family is either in Jackson already or making their final approaches into Jackson to be with their father at this time, and then some decisions I believe will have to be made on his behalf. So I would expect, sometime later this afternoon, maybe this evening, we would get some sort of update, and I don't expect at this time for it to be a positive.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was immediately a oh my God moment. What are your thoughts? And again, the fraternity of coaches or college football, athletics in general, are just humans, people, right? The response that you have seen, the outpouring of response for Coach Leach.
It's been really something to behold. I mean, it feels like every coach in the country who is on social media at this time has tweeted out a thought or a prayer. Same with a lot of former players, his current players, a lot of the members of the media who have had dealings with him through the years. You can see the universal, not just respect for this man, but because he's been such a character in college football, you almost like a reverence or a love for the guy because of all the funny and joyful moments he's got to see. His legacy as a college football coach is very complete in that he was a winner. He was a great coach, but he was also a guy that made you interested in him as a person.
I don't know if you saw this or not, but I just see one particular person who covers Texas Tech, the stadium, large screen, even at AT&T Jones Stadium in Lubbock, where he was basically in that huge dispute forever about being fired, has a picture of him swing your sword up on their scoreboard. Did you see that?
I had heard that Texas Tech was doing a tribute to him, and then that really speaks to the magnitude of the man, that they were able to let that bygone be a bygone and give him the tribute that he richly deserves for all the success he brought them during his time there in Lubbock. That's good to see. In times like this, David, man, you got to put the past behind you, and you want to have that clean conscience with you when you think of the man and what he did in his life. There are
thousands of great Mike Leach quotes, interviews. I was watching the one. A couple of videos from earlier, late last night, and we might share a couple of those on the show. Is it possible to have one favorite Mike Leach story that you could tell?
Maybe a few other people would know. A couple of years ago, I was invited to a dinner that Mike Leach was going to be at. It was a small, intimate dinner, just a few folks. And I'm just sitting there, and I actually happen to be sitting next to Coach. And the phone rings, and it's my mom. Doesn't know I'm at this dinner or anything, right? So I just looked at Mike and I was like, "That's my mom, Coach. You want to talk to her?" And he picks up the phone. He's like, "Absolutely," and just grabs the phone. He's like, "This Coach Mike Leach. How are you this evening?" And he talked for a few minutes. He's like, "I love your son. He's hilarious. He's sitting by me. We're having dinner right now. Great guy. You did a good job with him." And hands me the phone back. My mom, I could feel her blushing through the phone.
Oh yeah,
as she talked to Mike Leach. So she really enjoyed that. That's a special moment that I'll always get to have.
You've been in the business a while. Did he and his arrival in Starkville make you even be more prepared? Not that you weren't, because you're a pro, a journalist, but that you had to kind of be on your A game, so to speak, when you were around him to interview him, media sessions after a game, anywhere else?
Yeah, normally when you talk to a coach, it's kind of the same stuff. It's what did you see on film and what do you think about the opponent? I always felt when I talked to Coach Leach, I needed to have something in my back pocket that I could get him, not necessarily, I didn't like to go down the whole, the mascot battle royal thing with him, but I always wanted to, learn more about him. Like one of my questions I interviewed was like, what's the Mike Leach bucket list? What have you not done that you'd like to do? And he talked about places he wanted to travel and things he wanted to see that he had not gotten the chance to do yet. So it was always fascinating. And yeah, you did have to stay on your feet because you just never knew where he was going to take even the most benign question. He might get a question about Will Rogers. A few minutes later, he's talking about at the time when he lived in Finland. So you just never knew with Mike Leach.
You know, I know football is absolutely the last part in your mind, but the interim coach was named yesterday, at least during this time, because obviously there needs to be somebody in charge. Your thoughts about that decision?
Zach Arnett's a good young coach. I think he's a future head coach. And he's got the right mentality. He's very, very businesslike. In a time like this, I feel like that's important to try to keep everybody focused because you do have a game to play at the end of this month, which I assume they will play in tribute of Mike Leach if it comes to that. So I feel like Zach Arnett's a good guy to lead this program right now. It's such an interesting situation here at Mississippi State because they're still without an athletic director.
Mm-hmm.
You know, John Cohen just recently left for Auburn. They have not made that hire yet. So you're going to get a new athletic director, I would imagine, in the next week or so because that process has been ongoing. And then that guy will immediately have to go into a search for a new head football coach. I think there's still plenty of time for that. They let go of Joe Moorhead on January 3rd of 2020, and they hired Mike Leach a week later. So there's still time for all that. Of course, you have National Signing Day coming up. How is that going to work with all the uncertainty? There's a lot of questions, but I feel like Zach Arnett is very capable of keeping this program moving forward during the interim.
Brian, you again cover Mississippi State sports talk in Mississippi, and everything we see, and you got to be careful because of the privacy. But this is what appears to be an incredibly grave situation. Is that correct?
Very, very much so. I like I said, I feel like the next update we receive will probably not be one we want to hear.
Yeah.
From what I've been told and what I've read, that it's just an awful situation that caught all of us completely by surprise. And, we'll continue to pray. We'll continue to hope for the best. But we'll have to see what happens whenever those next updates come out.
We appreciate your time on a terrible and also incredibly busy day for you. Brian Hadad, Sports Talk in Mississippi, on Mike Leach, clinging to life, Mississippi State football coach. And this is 365 Sports.